What's going on, YouTube? This is Stan, and I'm back again to talk about some more Magic the Gathering old school killer decks. The deck that I'm going to talk about this time is the slow yet methodical control deck known as Counter Phoenix. Now, the key to playing with this deck is getting a rock solid control over the whole duel first, then winning by using virtually unkillable flyers. Now, take a look at the recipe itself. Now, as you can tell by the title and the recipe, the Shard Phoenix is the key card to this deck. It can be sacrificed as a pyroclasm, or it can block like a wall of junk. But most importantly, it combines well with the buyback counterspell Forbid. As long as you have 6 mana in play, using the Shard Phoenix allows you to buy back the Forbid every single turn. Now, for 3 red mana, simply return the discarded Phoenix to your hand during your next upkeep, and basically just restart the cycle all over again. Now, when you need to counter a spell, discard the Phoenix and whatever card you drew, thus always having a counter magic card in hand and not losing card economy by discarding 2 cards per turn. Now, all you gotta do is keep this up long enough and eventually you'll net 9 mana, and you'll be having 2 Phoenixes per turn eventually, countering any card without any card loss. That's pretty much how the deck functions. The key to winning with this deck is to survive early in the game. That's a lot easier said than done, since, like I said before, this is a slow deck. You do have several direct damage spells which will hold off a lot of weenie creatures, and if you absolutely have to, you can cast the Phoenix during turn 5. But like I said, only if you absolutely have to. Now, you got those bottle gnomes which serve as an excellent wall early in the game. But of course, they won't last very long. But you can also sacrifice them and gain 3 life, which may come in handy a little bit later on, especially against aggressive decks. Now, you can be liberal with your counter magic early in the game, and please do not hesitate to prevent anything that looks like a threat. With 11 spells dedicated to countering, including the Forbid, the Mana Leak, and the Power Sink, you should be able to stop enough threats to set up the Forbid Shard Phoenix lock, which I explained earlier how it works. Or at least get a defensive Nevin'Real Disc on the table. Now, as you can tell, the disc can blow away all non-land permanents, so use it to clear away your opponent's cards and bring back any Phoenixes that you may have later on. I've always loved the Nevin'Real Disc. It's like a really awesome reset button. Now, if you want to, you can also take a little bit of advantage of the timing rules and get an infinite Nevin'Real Disc effect. Okay, let me explain this. Pay 1 mana and activate Disc. In response, cast the Capsize to bring back the disc into your hand. You still get the Blow Up the World, but the disc comes back into your hand first, ready to be recast whenever you need it. Now, speaking a little bit about some other cards that help this deck function a little bit smoother, the Intuition and the Recall. The Intuition is a great choice because back in its day, it was like the only card in Standard other than the weaker Gamble card, which allowed you to access your deck almost immediately. And the Recall was another fun card that interacts well with the Phoenixes. You can discard a few from your hand and get back whatever graveyard cards you need at the time. I mentioned earlier why the Forbid is an awesome card, because you can discard 2 cards to counter a target spell. So if you have 2 Phoenixes in your hand, you can go ahead and discard them, counter your opponent's target spell, and you get the Phoenixes right back. Alright, talking a little bit about the weaknesses of this deck, I have to say your biggest weakness and your worst enemy is mana denial, because this deck is very mana intensive. So to compensate, it has a very high mana ratio. 13 islands, 11 mountains, and 3 reflecting pools. Yeah, 27 lands out of 60 cards. Now, there's a method to that madness, okay? Mana is very valuable to you, so it's crucial to counter any cards like a Armageddon or Winter Orb or a Blight or something like that, which can destroy your mana flow. You got to protect that real estate. You also need to watch out for those very unpleasant remove from game effects. You know, like those graveyard devouring planar voids. But you do have some Nevin Real Disc, and those usually help with problems like that. Usually. Another thing that could be a problem for this deck is protection from red creatures. Another problem is that white weenie hordes can often handle a Nevin Real Disc, and sacrificing a Phoenix won't kill the Paladin Invic. Don't worry. In order to survive these kind of nuisances, I got like a sideboard right here that we can resort to. I know the sideboard looks a little bit goofy, but it does have some surprisingly effective options. When you're going up against those protection from red creatures, go ahead and get this monster, the Flamerid. This flying creature allows you to turn your Shard Phoenix blue right before you sacrifice it. Now those protection from red creatures are no longer a problem. Now for any deck that has no counter magic, the only way to break the forbid Shard Phoenix lock is to cast multiple spells in a turn. Now when you're dealing with a problem like that, you go ahead and you get the Arcane Laboratory, and that'll shut their ass down quick, fast, and in a hurry. What's also great about it is that as an added bonus, it's like an instant win against almost any kind of combo deck. The Energy Field is an excellent way to buy some time against the most aggressive deck strategies like the Tried but True Slay deck, the Suicide Black deck, or the Mono Green deck. As long as you play nothing but land, your opponent won't be able to damage or destroy the Energy Field. Eventually, you can play the disc, untap it, and keep yourself in the position where it is really difficult for you to lose. However, I have seen it happen. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the substitutions. Now, if you can't get your hands on any reflecting pools, just get some more islands or mountains. You can't get your hands on intuition, get a catalog. You can't get your hands on a Nevin Real Disc, get a scrap. You can't get your hands on a recall, get your hands on the Whispers of Muse instead. Alright, wrapping it up, I have to say that this deck, I'm going to be honest with you, it's not my favorite deck in the whole world, but once you actually practice with it and learn how it works and learn how to adapt to any threat that gets set up against you, this deck is pretty solid. Alright, that's all I gotta say about this deck. I'd like to give a shout out to all my fans out there. Really appreciate it, and thank you for sticking with me for this long. I also like to give a shout out to all of the sources that I used to rebuild this video. And to all of you watching, please go ahead and subscribe and comment, because I love hearing from you, and subscriptions are good. It lets me know that all my work is not in vain and people actually do care about the days of yesteryear of Magic the Gathering. Alright, I'm Stan, and that's all for now.